would allow the kids to pursue their interests in natural history. And so that was really the charge. Pizza parlor colored rainbow darters, just, and that was it. That was what we did. What's in that river, and why are the ripples different from the pools? That was we talked about it, and we had a lot of fun with it.
It offered these students an immersive experience. So it wasn't just a one-shot deal. They come to the museum, for 2 hours once a year and don't come back till next year. This was a way that we met, every Saturday for, I don't know how long, it was 8 weeks maybe or whatever during the school year, and then again in the spring term, and then, and it gave them repeated exposure in a deep, meaningful way.
To inspire a sense of wonder, the natural world, and a source of strength of feeling comfortable in the natural world rather than just knowing things, but feeling at ease in a museum. And the social contacts, I think, among the students were just as important as anything in fact, it was probably more important than anything I had to say.
In 1961, museum director Bill Sheely asked Russ Hansen to create a program for high school students. His challenge, to get high school students involved with hands-on science and communicate the importance of conservation and preservation.
When I worked with the Future Scientists, basically, I just wanted everyone to have fun, try to inspire a love of nature, a love of science. Those are things that I love. So I was just trying to inspire them to the things that I liked a lot. So hopefully in the future, they would want to be stewards to science and nature as well and continue giving back.
In 1962, the museum's Future Scientist program began with field trips to Whipps Ledges, the North Chagrin Reservation, Stebbins Gulch at Holden Arboretum, and many others. That year, students also helped prepare mammal study skins at the museum and traveled to Indiana Dunes State Park.
These were kids that came into the program that had some interests. So we had a kid that loved trees. We had a kid that thought mosses were terrific. We had a kid that thought vertebrates were great. We had a kid that thought not just the stuff on the ground, but birds were great. And their interests were fortified and amplified by the reaction of the kids around them and by taking us to places.
My main goal with the program is to connect the students in a very personal way with both science and with nature, and I want them to really feel like they have a relationship with those things and with the out of doors, and to feel comfortable there and feel at home and have a little bit of knowledge about the local plants and animals and geography and topography, and feel like they have the confidence to spend time outside and spend time on their own.
That environmental education allows kids to make the connection between abstract learning of facts and how they might function in their world, whether it's in a career path or whether it's in just making choices what products you're going to buy as a consumer. And so there's that whole piece where environmental education is, hopefully you're being taught enough facts so that you're able to make choices. The other issue too is that EE is interdisciplinary, and so it's a way of melding in social studies with science, with language arts, with math, and that's a great way to learn.
During the last 50 years, the museum staff in charge of the program have brought their own unique skills and goals to the future scientist. But the basic vision of the program has remained the same: to get high school students excited about nature by giving them the opportunity to do real scientific fieldwork. Today, the group visits local parks, surveys natural areas, and works in museum labs and travels all over the country.
Well, as I reflect back on sort of the state of education in 1976, the education that the kids were getting in the schools was very, if it was biological education, it was very molecular, it was cell biology, there was not a whole lot of organismic or ecosystem type of study whatsoever. And you had these people that were just yearning to have experiences in the natural sciences. And so I thought, my thinking at the time was the best experience is to be able to provide fodder to them, to get them involved, whet their appetite for some of these things. Part of it was just the places that Bob Segedin and I would take them. Other parts of it were the ability to work alongside our curatorial staff and see the people, the professionals and the scientists and the passion that these people have for the subject matter.
Since 1962, more than 700 students have had amazing experiences with the Future Scientist. Participants have spent time with luminaries like David Brower, Roger Torrey Peterson, Dr. Jack Horner, and Ewell Gibbons, who dedicated his book, Stalking the Healthful Herbs, to Russ Hansen and the Future Scientists. They have also contributed to museum scientific research, recently recording the first 5-line skink on the museum's Grand River Terrace Preserve.
Well, primarily it was to be hands-on. It was an immersive experience. It's to provide the experience, so not to be didactic, but get them out doing things. We had a lot of interest in birds of prey at the time. We were doing a lot of wildlife rehabilitation and wildlife resources. And I will tell you that we sent a lot of future scientists home with animals to raise, to rear, or otherwise take care of.
Today, the need to engage young people with nature is perhaps more urgent than ever, and the Future Scientist program is thriving as students continue to dedicate themselves to science and conservation.
The main methods I use are essentially a service learning model. I want the students to put their time and their effort and their energy into projects that have a really tangible benefit to both the scientific community here at the museum as well as nature itself. So we'll do things like build deer exclosures on museum properties that are used to study the impact that our deer overpopulation here in Northeast Ohio is having on our plant and small animal ecosystems and communities. So that's a long-term project. We built the exclosures in the fall, and now for the foreseeable future, we'll go back a couple times a year and monitor what's growing inside versus what's growing outside. And that was hard work. We did it last fall. The days were cold and rainy, but I really feel like when the students have an experience like that, that's a little bit challenging. They really have to put some effort into it. That leads to them becoming stakeholders in the environment and in nature, and it's real. It's not contrived. It's not pretend. It's, I think, very different than what they might do in a laboratory at school or in other kinds of programs. They're really contributing to the science that goes on here at the Natural History Museum. They're doing real work.
I think that the idea behind a future scientist, whether it's a day trip or whether it's a weekend trip or whether it's an expedition somewhere, is that yes, there is a component of it is organized. You've arranged a destination, you're hoping to see some highlights. But then there's always the unknown, there's always the unexpected. There's always the idea that you're having a group experience where the group itself is doing something that is loosely scripted. And there's lots of times when we did field trips where they were very loosely scripted. And that stuff was defining and very, very cool. We don't have lots of places that you can do that. And one of the things that Future Scientists facilitates was getting a group of kids in a unique setting and to have some scripted and some unscripted activities.
As we celebrate the accomplishments of the last 50 years, we also look to the future. Students continue to have the opportunity to make significant contributions to the museum's collections and research, to help protect our region's fragile ecosystems, engage in hands-on scientific research, and even participate in fieldwork with museum curators. We look ahead to another 50 years of exploration, discovery, and adventure with the Future Scientist at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History.